and the state isn't capable of taking a debit and credit card. We ate at one of the best little diners you could ever imagine. I believe it was in Cherokee, Iowa. And man, this guy, he's like, you know, we soak our beef in buttermilk. And then he said, not really. Well, it was tender. It was tender. It was good stuff. Good stuff. And he remembered the potatoes and the gravy. But you know what? In Cherokee, Iowa, he was able to take a debit card. Okay. Doozies in was it Marengo? They could take a debit card, but the Iowa Department of Transportation cannot take a credit or debit card when you go in to get your license in the 21st century. And so we begin the process of restoring operational efficiency and operational integrity. That's foundational. And as we begin the process of restoring operational efficiency and operational integrity, it speaks to the importance of understanding some core governing principles. And let's go over here. Here's our core governing principles, hiding right behind there. You can zoom out some. Okay. Can you pull this over a little? Okay. Every government bureaucracy that exists, every division, every bureau, every title, every staff position, every funded program, every appropriation, every expenditure, and there is a difference between appropriations and expenditures, must be subordinate to these considerations. Principle 1, is it necessary for government to do this? Principle 2, is it outcome and results oriented? Principle 3, is it accountable to the public? Principle 4, is it competently staffed, efficient, and effective? And this is a critical point. And this really is what we've seen with the Culver administration. In many ways, the Culver administration did us a favor. Now, the Branstad administration had a car that shook at 55 miles an hour. But over the course of 16 years, former Governor Branstad knew how to drive comfortably at 48 miles an hour, and so the car stopped shaking, period. And Governor Vilsack revved the car up the first 6 months, but he learned how to crank it down, and the car did well at 48 miles an hour. And Governor Culver got in the car and put his foot on the accelerator, and the car shook, and he thought, this is cool. This is fun. And so we end up with the film credit scandal. The Branstad administration structured a Department of Economic Development with the potential for rampant abuse from day one. And it went agency after agency after agency. And it was just waiting for someone to come along that was not competent and was not efficient and would not be effective to take what was already broken and to break it even worse. And this is what happened under the Culver administration. The Culver administration did not create these crises. They just exposed them because of the lack of structural integrity. The 99% approach toward spending, which we'll touch on when we go to reprioritization. So is it competently staffed, efficient, and effective? Is it responsive but not reactionary? Is it impartial and not inconsistent? And finally, government must be braced by personal responsibility. And these are some core governing principles that have to exist as we begin the task of reducing state government. And you can reorganize state government, but doesn't mean you reduce state government. So we first reorganize it, and then we begin the process of shrinking it. Unlike the Branstad administration, when we talk about cuts, we mean we're spending less money than we did before. And how do we partially get to that? We go to what we call zero-based budgeting. Now, the current way we fund state government is we take, and I don't know how many of you have seen Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, but we take an envelope and we open it from the Revenue Estimating Conference, and the legislature and the governor standing around like the Griswolds to see how much they get to spend. And after the estimate comes in, we spend 99% of what they guessed. And we may be over, we may be under, and we say, oops. Or we may be over, or we may be under. We say, yay, we can spend more. But it's fundamentally flawed. What we do is we go to zero-based budgeting that says we buy milk, we buy eggs, we buy butter, we buy meat, and everything else goes back. The Pop-Tarts and the soda pop, if you want those kids, get a job cutting grass, shoveling snow. We're not going to pay for them. So what we do is we say, troopers, 100% funded. Courts, 100% funding. Education, it's in the Constitution. But we fix the way the money flows so we stop wasting money. Public safety, we fund those things we're absolutely supposed to. Everything else gets vetoed. Those areas that are transitional areas that we can't eliminate immediately, we begin creating a culture of responsibility and accountability. For example, welfare. Under Governor Branstad and the Republicans, all that was required of welfare recipients after they had everything paid for and got food stamps was to choose between Oprah and Judge Wapner. Under Cover and the Democrats, all that was being required after we paid for everything and gave swipe cards is to choose between Oprah, whatever court program's on, and Judge Judy, congratulations on how well your program's doing. Under a Narcisse administration, we begin by creating a culture of responsibility. We start by asking, who's the daddy? From there, we ask other pivotal questions. For example, where's the daddy? We say you can't be on dope and welfare too. Here's a cup. And we require you to participate in being constructive. You can haul away dead branches, fill in potholes, volunteer at a school, work at a nonprofit, work at a daycare watching folks' kids who work 2 and 3 jobs to pay that extra child care cost. But you can't just sit down and do nothing. And again, we change the culture of how we do things. Right now, Branstad and Culver are debating over whose buddy should get the 160 million or whatever in prison construction in Fort Madison. We believe work is restorative. Now, I talked to somebody up in Cherokee. When they had a tornado, they brought some fellows over from Rockwell City at the prison there. They loved cleaning up the town. Same in during the ice storms. Works good for these fellows. So we'd have a fellow put down a brick, another mortar, another brick, another mortar. Why spend $160 million on private folks? Prisons are economic development. The fellows earn a little bit of money. A third goes to their victim. Third goes to take care of things like buying their kids winter boots and fare tickets. And a third for a reentry fund. And it's restorative and redemptive, and they give something back. Working on county roads, building bike and walking trails. Cleaning waterways and planting trees. It's good for our state, it's good for them, and they're paying back. They don't just sit around, get ripped, smoke dope, wreak havoc on society when they get out and recidivate back like they have after